The metal genre has quite a few legendary singers and vocalists: Ozzy, Lemmy, Dickinson, Halford, Hetfield. But one stands above them all, even at the small stature of 5'3" tall. But his voice was that of a giant.
Now we can be strong. We are fire and stone, and we all want to try to rainbow. Oh, now where do we go? The man on the same mountain, yeah. Children of the sea.
For years, Ronnie James Dio was embedded in two of the most legendary bands of all time, with Rainbow and Black Sabbath. And if possible, he was overshadowed by the guitar giants within those bands. But then, Ronnie James Dio broke away and forged his own career, his own legend, and his own catalog. And it all started here with this breakout album. Ronnie James Dio, or as I like to call him, God, is widely regarded as the voice of metal, a legend that reigned supreme as the benchmark for all metal singers for 4 decades until the day he passed in 2010.
Ronnie James Dio passed away early this morning after a long battle with stomach cancer. He was 67.
There have been many a video, audio essay, and books written about the greatness that is RJD. So in the interest of time, we will not go into depth about what Dio did before this particular album, other than to say an acknowledgement of sorts. I understand that the video might be a little bit mistitled, saying breakout album for Dio was Holy Diver. Holy Diver was in no way Ronnie James Dio's breakout album. Ronnie, in fact, broke out with Rainbow first and then with Black Sabbath. So his reputation was well established long before 1983.
Sing me a song, you're a singer. Do me a wrong, you're a bringer of evil.
So let's focus instead on his band that was basically made up of an all-star lineup. Jimmy Bain was Ronnie's bassist in Rainbow, and he was also the lead vocalist and bassist for a band called Wild Horses before rejoining up with Ronnie James Dio for this project on Holy Diver. Vinny Appice basically became Ronnie James Dio's personal drummer from Black Sabbath's Heaven and Hell on, leaving Sabbath after The Mob Rules to join Dio's solo project and playing on 7 of Ronnie's 10 total solo albums, plus Black Sabbath's Dehumanizer and the Heaven and Hell records. He worked with Ronnie James Dio a lot.
We get along so well. This is one of the greatest singers in rock, and we live at the same place. So it was kind of like, let's take a chance. This can't fail with Ronnie at the helm, cannot fail. And so, Tony and Giza wanted me to stay with them, but they were based in England. So it was kind of an easy decision to go, all right, let's try it, see what happens.
Before even joining Sabbath, Appice was a seasoned vet to begin with, having played with Rick Derringer and being in John Lennon's backup band until and including Lennon's final performance before his death. Rounding out the Dio lineup for this album was a newcomer, Vivian Campbell, who was brought on to replace Jakey Lee on guitars, who bailed to take Randy Rhoads' spot in the Ozzy lineup after Randy Rhoads' tragic death. A very incestuous relationship these musicians seem to have when it comes to playing with the Sabbath family tree. Vivian Campbell would go on to massive successes in his career by playing with Whitesnake and eventually landing with Def Leppard and remaining there to this very day. Despite using his Dio years as a solid jumping off point for his successes, Campbell and Ronnie didn't really have the most positive relationship, with Campbell being quoted as saying in a 2003 interview, "Playing in Dio never really mattered to me. It still doesn't. He's an incredible talent, but he's an awful businessman and, way more importantly, one of the vilest people in the industry." Now, I'm not sure how this is possibly true. I've only had the pleasure of meeting Ronnie James Dio once. That's while I worked at Sirius Satellite Radio, and he was nothing but humble and kind and nice. So there might be something to be said about what happens behind closed doors. Who knows? I'm not really sure. And to remain consistent with my take on Dio, when asked about what Campbell had to say in these remarks, Dio simply said he wishes Vivian the best. So, I don't know.
And I said, "Jimmy, you know any guitar players?" He said, "Got 2 great ones." Brought a tape to Vinny and I in a hotel we were staying at in London. played them both. One was John Sykes, one was Vivian Campbell. Listening to them both, said, could you bring this guy down? That was Vivian. Vivian was living in Ireland. He's from Northern Ireland. Called Viv. Viv came down. I got a rehearsal hall. We rehearsed for 2 days. I had written Don't Talk to Strangers at the time, showed him to Viv and to Jimmy. Vivian was magnificent at what he was doing, perfect for the band at the time. There it was. There was the band.
Campbell would later state that he regretted those remarks and views his time with Dio much more favorably, and even formed a Dio tribute band with former bandmates Jimmy Bain and Vinny Appice and vocalist Andy Freeman called Last in Line back in 2012. So remaining consistent with... The fuck? Consistent with... The fuck? Well, I'm glad I caught that on camera, because that's fucking weird. So I was personally 6 years old when Holy Diver was released on May 25th, 1983. So I can't really tell you what the initial response was amongst metalheads and fans of the time, but I can tell you for as long as I can remember, this record, CD, cassette tape, or even streaming has been in my collection and probably in most metalheads' collection since the day it was released. Holy Diver is not my personal favorite when it comes to overall works within Dio's career. However, it is definitely by far the most iconic and definitely the most perfect, well-paced, consistent solo album of Dio's career.
You feel is hot, but you know he's free. Something like can never be seen.
You can certainly argue that his second album, Last in Line, comes very, very close, but that's a different argument for a different day that maybe I'll conduct here on this channel, because as an opening statement for a solo artist coming from not one, but two legendary bands beforehand, this was a very tall task to be asked.
Oh, here it comes again, straight through the heart. Straight through the heart.
Well, I can certainly tell you, for a man that stood all of 5'4", his voice and this album arguably towers above all of the rest of them of his era. With blistering metal classics like Straight Through the Heart, Don't Talk to Strangers, and the anthemic Stand Up and Shout. The melodic mastery of Caught in the Middle and Invisible. The bluesy wanting of Shame on the Night, and of course the mega metal staples, the title track Holy Diver, and possibly the greatest mainstream metal song of all time, and that would be Rainbow in the Dark. This album is sheer perfection from cover to cover, from first note to the last, all killer, no filler. A tremendous amount of stellar guitar playing by Vivian Campbell, a masterclass in early metal drumming by Vinny Appice, solid bass work by Jimmy Bain, and of course, the great Ronnie James Dio solidifying his legend with one jaw-dropping performance after another. Holy Diver would be one of the albums I'd recommend to any one person who asks me the following question. Chris, if I wanted to get into metal music and its roots, where would I start? Now, I'm fully aware that none of this is a hot take by any measure whatsoever. By most accounts, From the early press reviews of this album to its initial sales having it earn gold in less than 4 months and eventually achieving a double platinum certification, which is 2 million records sold, no one is shocked by my essay here. However, it's the career it spurned on that really makes this a truly true breakout album.
But I've seen the sky, and I never, never, never want to die. Now you know the reason why I say, shame on the day.
The reason why this album was picked as Dio's breakout album in my eyes is because the fact that Dio has never stood on his own before this and was part of bands that had their own legendary pre-established pieces. It kind of overshadowed Dio a bit. Well, maybe not overshadowed, but let's be real. If you listen to that early Rainbow stuff, as great as Ritchie Blackmore is on Stargazer, it's Dio you're listening to, right?
Look at his color of stone. I see a rainbow rising. Look there on the horizon.
Am I wrong here? Same with Heaven and Hell.
Said, come with me, I know just what to do. But I said, go away, I'm gonna burn in hell with all of you. Yeah, yeah.
It's my opinion, and it's been shared by many others, that Ronnie James Dio in fact saved Black Sabbath when he arrived for Heaven and Hell.
It was getting worse and worse, and it was just so, we were all so down then. We needed something to really boost us up, and sort of when we replaced Ozzy with Dio, then it really did start us off again. We had sort of somebody that's come in that's had some input, you know.
But the real measure of Holy Diver's breakout status is the fact that it outsold both Heaven and Hell and The Mob Rules, and Sabbath seeing a precipitous drop-off after his departure, thus putting Ronnie James Dio on his own pedestal, which he so richly deserved. Sure, Holy Diver was hands down Ronnie's most successful output from a sales standpoint, but there's no doubt that from 1983 on, Ronnie James Dio was referred to as the man when it came to metal voices.
If you've never heard before, there was once a time when only God had fire.
The record sales did hold up though for a bit, specifically the next 2 records, with The Last in Line going platinum and Sacred Heart reaching gold status, but eventually the sales would fall off.
So here is a dream for just you and I. We'll find the sacred heart.
Dio would go on to reunite with Sabbath in the early 90s for 1992's Dehumanizer, which was a great album and marked Sabbath's return to the Billboard Top 100 Billboard charts.
I'm a virgin, no fucking whore. Giving nothing, I'm a taker, the maker of war.
But this reunion was short-lived due to tensions between Dio and the band surrounding Sabbath supporting Ozzy's final shows in Costa Mesa.
Another one of the famous stories that I refused to be the opening act for Ozzy because this was a Sabbath show. We'd already had a show, we were going to play Long Beach and someplace else here in LA. I got a call saying, well, now it's been changed, and the last 2 gigs you're going to be opening for Ozzy. And my reply was, no, I'm not. I won't do that. And so for almost all those 2 months of touring in America, they still believed that I was going to do that show. Okay. I kept telling them, no, I'm not going to do it. And 2 weeks before, Geezer said to me, you're really going to do the show, aren't you? And I said, I told you, I'm going to tell you only one more time. I refused to do it. So there was no reason on earth for me to have to show, as they put it in those days, respect to Ozzy. I don't respect you for a start, and I don't need to show you any respect, mate, and I won't. So that was the end of it. Of course, I mean, I can't say I don't have respect for Ozzy. Let's face it, he was one of the guys in that band who created heavy metal music. You know, I mean, what more respect can I give him than that? Ozzy was always a good friend of mine when I wasn't in Sabbath. But when I was, he's always been a miserable person who's had nothing but bad things to say about me.
Dio would go on to produce 5 more solo albums until 2004, when he'd reunite with the Sabbath Boys again, only this time due to a court battle with Sharon and Ozzy Osbourne, they changed their name to Heaven and Hell, which I personally love.
Here we go. He can't come back. He's reading from the Bible black.
I think they should retroactively go back and change all the Dio era material to this name, Heaven and Hell, because it sounds like a completely different and frankly a better band with Ronnie James Dio. I said what I said, you Ozzy fans out there. Sadly, after a few tours, a new album in 2009 called The Devil You Know, which, if you haven't heard it yet, is a straight fantastic album. Dio received the Revolver Golden Gods Award in April of 2010, making him the oldest performer to earn the award at the age of 67.
And the Golden God goes to... Ronnie James Dio!
Oh, thank you so very, very much. This is great. What a cool award. Very cool. It's great to be back amongst people again. It's been a little while since I've been able to do that, but feel pretty good. Can't wait to get back on the stage again. And this is so very cool. Thanks to all the readers of Revolver, and thanks Revolver for having a night for this kind of music. It's about time it happened for us, not anybody else. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love everybody. Thanks a lot.
Dio accepted the award in person, and it would be the last public appearance of the great Ronnie James Dio, as he would die of stomach cancer the very next month.
He's gonna give you fever, and he's got your soul. He's the king of rock and roll.
I could go on and on about the legacy of Ronnie James Dio, because he is truly one of, if not the greatest voice and performer I've ever had the pleasure of seeing, hearing, and or meeting. He has influenced so many vocalists and has brought so much joy to so many.
The final fame and fortune through the valley you must walk. You will face your inner demons. Now go, my son, and
Great stuff you wrote.
Yeah, I just can't believe this is really happening. This,
Poof, and you woke up.
This legacy, this ever-enduring scope of influence and greatness was definitely solidified by this breakout album, Holy Diver, which took Ronnie James Dio from a great singer in whatever band he was in at the time to metal god, an all-time great legend deserving of all the praises that he has gotten and continues to get. You could argue that it was Heaven and Hell or Rainbow Rising or even Elf back before he was even anything that shined the light and made everyone see how great Ronnie James Dio was. And that's true. It is true that you can go back and listen to those old albums and really go, wow, this guy was really great. But to me, every artist has that one moment, that breakout moment that sets them apart from everyone else. It is my opinion that Holy Diver was Dio's moment where he stood out and everybody goes, that guy right there, he is the man. And this was his breakout album. So what do you think? What is your opinion on Holy Diver? Was it Ronnie James Dio's breakout moment? Would you consider Heaven and Hell his breakout moment? Would you consider the first Rainbow album his breakout moment? Elf, when he came out of his mom's womb? Whatever. Put it down in the comments and let me know. Also, like and subscribe to this channel, please. I want to hear from you. I always want to hear from you. And be sure to venture over to my social media places where things are going to be happening. Things are going to be crack-a-lacking over there. And we're going to put that right on the screen right now. Will be all the social media places. And of course, as always, until next time, I want to thank you for being here with me, as I so much enjoy being here with you. And I will see you soon. Bye.